At first a difficult narrowness was there, a press of uncertain powers and drifting wills. For all was there, but nothing in its place. At
So,
times,
so I don't think we covered this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when everything is there but nothing's in its place, it's pure chaos.
yes,
And so we understand now that it's pure chaos.
yeah.
Please carry on. I won't disturb you again.
Wait. No, I want to write it also. Yeah. At times, an opening came, a door was forced. She crossed through spaces of a secret self and trod in passages of inner time. At last, she broke into a form of things, a start of finiteness, a world of sense. But all was still confused, nothing self-found. Soul was not there, but only cries of life. A thronged and clamorous air environed her.
Environed her.
Environed her. A horde of sounds defied significance. A dissonant clash of cries and contrary calls. A mob of visions broke across the sight. A
Jo-
jostled,
jostled.
a jostled sequence lacking sense and sweet. Feelings pushed through a packed and burdened heart. Each forced its separate, inconsequent way, but cared for nothing but its ego's drive. A rally without key of common will. Thought stared at thought and pulled at the thought brain, as if to pluck the reason from its seat and cast its corpse into life's wayside drain. So might forgotten lie in nature's mud, abandon the slain sentinel of the soul. So life's power, so could life's power shake from again, so could life's power shake from it mind's rule. Nature renounce the spirit's government and bear the elemental energies, make of the sense a glory of boundless joy, a splendor of ecstatic anarchy,
Revel.
revel, a revel mighty and mad of utter bliss. This was the sense's instinct void of soul, or when the soul sleeps, hidden void of power. But now the vital Godhead wakes within and lifts the life with the supernal's touch. But how shall come the glory and the flame if mind is cast away into the abyss? For body without mind has not the light, the rapture of spirit sense, the joy of life. All then becomes subconscient, tenebrous. Inconscience puts its seal on nature's page, or else a mad disorder whirls the brain, posting along a ravaged nature's roads. A chaos of disordered impulses, in which no light can come, no joy, no peace. This state now threatened, this she pushed from her.
Well, it's a good reading. There could be a little bit more inflection in some of the lines.
Okay.
And
I felt I kind of lost it in these four lines, like, so could
yes,
life's power
e-
shake from.
exactly
Yeah,
correct.
those four lines, like, I don't know what happened suddenly, like, I couldn't gather them together. But
Yeah,
the rest, I think, rest, I could also feel it when I read it.
very good, very good. It's coming along quite well.
Yeah.
So now and we explained all of this last time, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Now we're going to continue on, and there are a number of words that we have to define also. But let's start reading.
As if in a long, endless, tossing street, one driven mid a trampling, hurrying crowd.
Yeah, see, there's like one driven mid a trampling, hurrying crowd. You have to you have to move that music a little bit more. Feel the rhythm in your heart.
Okay. As if in a long, endless, tossing street, one driven mid a trembling, hurrying crowd. Hour after hour she trod without release, holding her by will, holding by her will the senseless, I don't know this word,
Mute, mute.
mute, holding by her will the senseless mute at bay. Out of the dreadful press she dragged her will, and fixed her thought upon the Saviour name. Then all grew still and empty. She was free.
Oh, so we have to go through so many things here. Um, so it's almost as if she is in. You see here Sri Aurobindo again with as if.
Mm,
He's giving us an image that can go directly into our consciousness,
yeah,
but it's not. He doesn't say in a long, endless, tossing street. He says
yeah,
as if one is in a long, endless, tossing street, and
yeah.
he's driven mid a trampling, hurrying crowd. Then after hour after hour, she trod without release, holding by her will the senseless mute at bay. Now,
Mm,
a mute is a French word, and
okay.
it means generally in French a pack of hounds,
Oh, okay.
but it can also be a mob of people. So we have to see what that senseless mute is here. I think it can work either way because there's this dreadful press, and she has to drag her will and fix her thought upon the Savior name. This is
Mm,
the key here.
mm,
This is the key to her release.
mm,
Because when you fix your name, your will on the Savior name, that is the only thing that can free you.
mm.
And for us, it's Ma or Mother.
Yeah,
Simple as that. Any danger, any difficult situation, Ma,
yeah,
or Mother,
yeah.
and she's with you. Of course, she's always with you. But
Mm,
when you do that, then her emanation comes to be with you,
mm.
and it's her protection. There's that story about Udar in the train, and the train has an accident, and many of the cars are thrown off the tracks, and Udar's car is untouched.
Mm.
And Mother said, "You didn't tell me what car you were in." So Mother saved many of the other cars also to be sure he was saved.
Mm.
So now we see that all grew still and empty, and Savitri is at last free.
Free.
Now what happens from here? Actually, I did want to do
Name?
name. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, very important. In Latin, we call it nomen or numen.
Okay.
Sri Aurobindo gives that to us here. It's very, very important.
Name in its deeper sense is not Name in its deeper sense is not the word by which we describe the object, but the total of power, quality, character of the reality which a form of things embodies and which we try to sum up by a designating sound, a knowable name, nomen.
We'll stop.
Nomen,
Let's
okay.
stop right there for a moment because we have to really go into this deeply. So, name is never the word by
Hmm.
which we describe something. So we say elephant, but it's not elephant. It's the power in that being, size of that being, the quality of that being, the character of that being. We say river,
Hmm.
and we have an image in our mind of that river.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
it's not river. It's the force of this thing, the power of it, and that is nomen.
Hmm.
So carry on.
Which we try to sum up by designating a sound. Okay. Nomen, in this sense, we might say, is numen.
Newman. Yes.
The secret names of the gods are their power, quality, character of being caught up by the consciousness and made conceivable. The infinite is nameless, but that namelessness, all but in that namelessness, all possible names, numens of the gods, the names and forms of all realities are already envisaged and prefigured because they are the because they are there latent and inherent in the all existence.
One word pronunciation, envisaged.
Envisaged. Envisaged.
Envisaged. Okay.
Envisaged.
So now we see that, although the infinite is nameless,
Mhm.
there are these secret names of the gods.
Hmm.
And so when we think of Shiva, we don't equate him with Vishnu.
Yeah.
We have a vision of Shiva, whatever that vision may be.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what Sri Aurobindo is telling us here.
Okay, I understand
In
now.
that
Yeah.
namelessness, all possible names of the gods, the names and the forms of all their realities, they're already envisaged and prefigured. So now we'll continue. A large deliverance. Well, what is a deliverance?
A large deliverance came, a vast calm space.
Now, what is a deliverance?
Like to deliver something like a big package or something like that.
No, it's a freedom.
Okay.
A large freedom came, a large deliverance. If you deliver someone from the dark, you bring them into light.
Huh. A while she moved through a blank tranquility of naked light from an invisible sun, a void that was bodiless happiness,
No, that was a bodiless.
a
You
void,
read a little bit slower.
okay, a void that was a bodiless happiness, a blissful vacuum of nameless peace.
So that's quite clear.
Hmm.
She is moving through this blank tranquility. There's nothing there. It's just naked light. But you can't even see the sun. The sun is invisible.
Yeah.
And then there's a void even. But in that void there was a happiness that was bodiless.
Yeah.
And there was a blissful vacuum and emptiness of nameless peace. So that's a beautiful thing that she's gone through. But now we're going to find something else is happening.
But now a mightier danger's front drew near. The press of bodily mind, the inconscious brood of aimless thought and will had fallen from her.
So we see that okay, there's been something good here, even though this dangerous front is drawing near, um, and this press of bodily mind, this press when something presses on one, you feel uncomfortable, huh? This press of bodily mind, this inconscious brood, and here again we have that word brood that. But here I feel it's the inconscious, what should I say, appearance. It's brood. When one broods, one meditates or thinks on something, contemplates something. And that could also be here. But here I think it's population, this brood, the brood of the inconscient.
Yeah.
Now, those two things, the press of bodily mind and the inconscious brood of aimless thought. So it's a brood of aimless thought and will had fallen from her. This is very positive. But now, what happens now?
Approaching loomed a giant head of life, ungoverned by mind or soul, subconscient, vast. It tossed all power into a single drive. It made its power a might of dangerous seas.
Ah, strange being. A giant head of life. Loom. When something looms, it sort of hangs over you, or you see it in the distance looming. And it's not governed by mind, it's not governed by soul, but it's subconscious and it's vast.
Yeah.
And this giant head of life tosses all power into this single drive, this single movement. And it made this power a might of dangerous seas. So now we have to see what happens.
Into the stillness of her silent self, into the whiteness of its muse of space, a spate, a torrent of the speed of life, broke like a wind-lashed driven mob of waves, racing on a pale floor of summer sand. It drowned its banks, a mountain of climbing waves.
Yeah, climbing, I wouldn't pronounce the B.
Okay, climbing.
I have checked on it before, and it's so just climbing now.
Okay.
I think in the earlier English times it was pronounced, but not now. So what does she see and what is she experiencing? So herself is silent now. And in that stillness of her silent self and the whiteness of its muse of space, this muse is an interesting thing. It's usually a goddess or the power that inspires a poet or an artist or a thinker. But it can also be a state of abstraction or contemplation, of reverie. So we see that in the whiteness of its muse of space, what happens? Well, a spate is an interesting word. It's a sudden flood or a rush or outpouring something. And what is that outpouring? It's a torrent of the speed of life. And that torrent breaks like a windlash driven mob of waves.
Hmm.
This beautiful line racing on a pale floor of summer sand.
Yeah.
You can see these waves when clear water racing over the sand. It drowned its banks, a mountain of climbing waves. And now we will have to go to another page, and we have a little bit of time, so we can do that.
Okay.
492. Let's see if I can get there. Yes. 492. Good. So she is going through all these incredible experiences now. And so you can begin here. Enormous.
Enormous was its vast and passionate voice. It cried to her, listening spirit,
No,
as
no.
it cried to her listening spirit as
Yes,
it ran,
yes.
demanding God's submission to chainless force. A deaf force calling to a status, how do you pronounce?
Status.
Status. A deaf force calling to a status dump. 1,000 voices in a muted vast. It claimed the heart's support for its clutch at joy, for its need to act the witness soul's consent, for its lust of power, her neutral being's seal.
Ah, most interesting. So here's what is happening now. This passionate voice. Remember this huge head
Yeah,
that has all of these forces in it. It's
Yeah.
now it's now crying to her listening spirit
yeah,
as it runs around like the sea
Yeah.
over the sand and all. And it wants God's submission to chainless force. So it doesn't want anything ordered, anything preconceived, anything predetermined.
Hmm.
It wants it to be a chainless force. In other words, anarchy.
Hmm.
And what's going to happen if it gets that? Let's see what happens here. He continues. It's a deaf force, so it's a force that's totally deaf and falling to a silent status. And what is it calling? Well, 1,000 voices in a muted vast. So here we have three words here, all taking us into this silence. Deaf,
Yeah.
dumb, and muted.
Muted. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible? So
Yeah.
now vast, he says he uses a capital V, but vast is just something very great in degree or intensity. So I have never found or wanted to find a definition for it. But he says it claimed the heart's support for its clutch at joy, for its need to act, the witness soul's consent. Now, the witness soul is the immutable Purusha. And Sri Aurobindo says this in Essays on the Gita. And it also wants, for its lust of power, Savitri's neutral being seal. So it's trying to get Savitri to agree to all of this. And we can continue a little more.
Or should I read from what we read today?
Yeah, maybe read.
Yeah.
That's a good idea because time's almost up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
As if in a long, endless, tossing street, one driven mid a trembling, hurrying crowd, hour after hour she trod without release, holding by her will the senseless mute at bay. Out of the dreadful press she dragged her will, and fixed her thought upon the Saviour name. Then all grew still and empty. She was free. A large deliverance came, a vast, calm space. A while she moved through a blank tranquility of naked light from an invisible sun, a void that was bodiless happiness.
Oh, you missed the A again.
Again, a void that was a bodiless happiness, a blissful vacuum of nameless peace. But now a mightier danger's front drew near. The press of bodily mind, the inconscious brood of aimless thought and will had fallen from her. Approaching loomed a giant ahead. Approaching loomed a giant head of life, ungoverned by mind or soul, subconscient, vast. It tossed all power into a single drive. It made its power a might of dangerous seas. Into the stillness of her silent self, into the whiteness of its muse of space, a spate, a torrent of the speed of life, broke like a wind-lashed, driven mob of waves, racing on a pale floor of summer sand. It drowned its banks, a mountain of climbing waves. Enormous was its vast and passionate voice. It cried to her listening spirit as it ran, demanding God's submission to chainless force. A deaf force calling to a status dumb, a thousand voices in a muted vast. It claimed the heart's support for its clutch at joy, for its need to act the witness soul's consent, for its lust of power, her neutral being's seal.
I cannot imagine if you go back and look at our first videos how much you have improved.
I can imagine.
Very good work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Namaste, Narad.